The key to this whole business, this rental game, is not about what size you choose, but rather which one you choose. Answer. We need over 30 years to recoup that amount. That defeats the purpose. I'm also preparing for a scenario where the supply of rental apartments will be greater than the demand. And in that situation, which ones will get rented first? The ones that are well done, nice, high quality, not just any random ones.
My dear friends, today on the Duroboti channel, we have a topic that rarely appears here, but I know you really like it. The topic is real estate. With me is Marcin. Welcome. Real estate expert, flipper, how should I call you, and what do you not like to be called?
Not an expert, just a practitioner. And flipper, well, I wouldn't use that term. You could say I'm a flipper, but for me, the process is very long. Sometimes the whole investment takes 2.5 years from the moment I buy or put a deposit on a property. So, okay, a flipper, but over a longer period of time.
Here we are now at an investment that's under renovation, but what is it that you actually do?
It's more finishing work, not renovation. What I do is deliver turnkey apartments to clients who will either live in them or to investors who are looking for rental properties, meaning investment apartments. Yeah.
Exactly. So do you only build and sell these apartments, or do you also own apartments that you rent out yourself?
It's a hybrid. I do both. My wife and I invest the capital we earn from other businesses as well, because we don't only deal with real estate. We also invest in our own properties, which we rent out. Last year, we also acquired our first property abroad, because I'm a big believer in diversification. Nowadays, I believe that's the right strategy, and that's how we operate. So we've also diversified in terms of location and geography, if you can call it that.
We're just starting this episode. We're in an apartment that's still being finished, but judging by the items here, the finishes look pretty high-end. Let's say, judging by the brands, I'm not really an expert on renovations, but it doesn't look cheap.
You know, we provide these quality products. The main thing is the client should feel comfortable living here, period. An investor should choose a product that tenants will appreciate, move in, and be satisfied with. It just needs to work well as a rental, right?
Okay, let's move on to another apartment, because here during the renovation there's not much to show. You can't see the finishes, so let's see what other products you have in your portfolio.
Okay, come on in.
This is the next renovation stage. How many similar apartments are in your portfolio now?
I mean, in total, I have a dozen or so apartments like this. I don't keep track of them on a daily basis. For example, just yesterday, 2 more came in to be finished.
But with renovation crews, I think that's probably the most important factor, to renovate something to a good standard and at a reasonable price.
But thanks to that, I have something to do because I have a good crew, and I take the burden off people, because that's really the hardest part of the whole operation. To find a crew that will show up on time, do a good job, and not leave you with a problem.
Right, another apartment?
Yes, another apartment. No, I have no money, so we won't buy it.
We won't buy more apartments. In Ciechanów, what would an apartment like this cost?
To buy, on average, 7,000 zlotys per square meter as of today.
Okay. Well, that's not a small amount. Let's say if we have a little over 30 square meters, then you have to spend quite a bit. And if you scale that up to, for example, 5 apartments at once, because that's about how many you're renovating at the same time, then you really need to have that budget. So from one apartment, can you really scale the business that much from a single apartment? How much can you earn on one apartment? 30, 40, 50,000?
It depends, since we're in an apartment that's set up just for rentals, right? And this is a small apartment, but it fulfills all the residential functions for a single person or a couple, because that's the segment I'm targeting right now. I won't profit here, and I can't say how much I'll earn, since it'll serve me for 50 years at 2,000 zlotys a month. I'm freezing those 300,000, but over 50 years, not only does the value of the property increase over time, but you also get that pension every month. And we can't do it, because that's my wife. And...
No, we're taking it from my wife. Like when she calls, hello, so your wife is your business partner?
Yes, she's with me. I mean, conceptually, not really operationally, because she runs her own business, a beauty salon, and she can't be here all the time, but she plays a big role. She helps at the very beginning with planning the layout of a given apartment. The initial conversations with the architect, because also architects, in my case I actually work with women, plan the layout of these rooms and apartments. And then the final touches. Oh, the color scheme of the furniture and the fronts, my wife handles that too. Turns out I do almost everything. Actually, I don't do anything.
I just strip.
It just goes by itself. That's how it is.
This so-called pension just drips in. In a moment, we'll of course get to your wife. But while we're here and you mentioned a rental apartment, it's usually associated with a place where there's just a sofa bed, maybe a TV, a bed, and that's it. Here I see some unusual things, panels on the walls, a mirror, little lamps, LEDs, colorful ones.
Well, you can use the remote to make it brighter or dimmer.
But will that actually increase, let's say, instead of, I don't know, someone says 2,000 for this apartment, but because of the LEDs, I'll give 2,200, 2,700.
You know, Wojtek, I'm also preparing for a scenario where the supply of apartments for rent will be greater than the demand, and in that situation, which ones will get rented first? The ones that are well done, nice, high quality, not just any random ones, because when it's prime time, everything gets rented, right? In any quality, at any price, but it could also be different.
It might not be unless the apartment is rented out. For example, if you rent it now and someone stays for 5 years.
But nobody rents an apartment for 5 years. I mean, nobody, at least not with me, okay? So it gets adjusted. It's not like someone will pay those 2,000 forever, right? The resolution lasts a year, and after that, it depends on the situation. We had 20% inflation, now about 5, so things are dynamic and no one can guarantee such a long time frame.
These aren't really family apartments?
Who don't want to worry about buying? No, the size suits just one person or a couple, not a family with a child. 2 rooms, a bed, no. A separate bedroom, a living room with a kitchenette, if you can even call it that, because it's a small space. But there are 2 half-cage rooms.
How could we have fit all this in one room?
25 square meters in this country is the minimum area you can legally offer. And if there's demand for it, then why shouldn't I do it? I don't have any apartments that are 25 square meters, but I do have some that are 30.
30 already, that's 5 free meters. All right, let's go see the wife because she's waiting for us. She also has some tasks for us to do. Just like Marcin said, with us is Ola, who beautifies apartments. Hi Ola, welcome. Hey, you beautify, so what exactly do you do here?
I furnish the apartment with these beautiful little gadgets that will give this place a nice look.
Okay, but does this look actually increase the value of the apartment?
It definitely increases its value because all these elements add a nice warmth. Just like when women come in, they look for a place where they will feel good, warm and comfortable, but without all these accessories, the apartment feels bare.
Yes, it's bare, and even though we have some countertops and tables, when you come in here, it's definitely nicer and warmer.
You know,
That we have a lot of elements to arrange, but are these things that stay here, or?
yes, these are things we leave behind. Of course, if the client wants to keep all of this, they get it from us as a gift.
So these little elements, trinkets probably speed up the sales process, right? Of course, they come in and say, okay, this is how I'm going to live.
The main thing is that these elements here are shown in the photo. Someone who looks at our offer sees that this is an apartment ready to move in, to live in, to settle in, and that's nice. Some people prefer the candle, others the flower, and that's all they'll notice, which is why they'll come to check out our apartment listing.
So is it worth adding such things to the apartment?
It's worth it. The scent really matters when clients arrive and the apartment feels fresh and pleasant.
Yeah.
And it doesn't reek of silicone,
Or maybe some paint smell that still lingers.
Yes, of course.
Lay down. So what's the value of those little things we're putting in here? 1,000 zlotys?
For something like this, 1,000, 1,500 zlotys, like I said, it depends on whether it's a bigger apartment or a smaller one and what is needed here.
All right, I'll keep you on the ladder a bit longer. We'll hang the curtains, arrange these elements, and then we'll move on. The Durobody channel entertains, inspires, and educates. That's also why we're here, not just to talk about business, but so you can get some cool tips that you can use in your life if you'd like to invest like Marcin. We'll draw and describe it. Go ahead.
I just wanted to show the difference between a 30 square meter apartment for rent and a 40 square meter one. Because usually, when someone goes to a developer and wants to buy an apartment as an investment, they pick the smallest one bedroom available, which is usually 40 or 43 square meters. Similarly, we can fit a 1-bedroom apartment into a 30 square meter space as shown. There will be a living room with a kitchenette and a bedroom, but with less space. But what does that mean? Assuming the average size in my city right now, that's 30 square meters. A square meter costs 7,000 zlotys. So to buy such an apartment, we need 210,000 zlotys. To buy 40 square meters, we need 280,000 zlotys. So right from the start, we've spent 70,000 more. To finish 30 square meters, we need about 90,000 zlotys to my standard. So 30 square meters cost us 210,000. 210 plus 90 makes 300,000. To finish 40 square meters, we don't need 90,000 anymore, but 100, so 40 square meters, that's 380. We have 80,000 zlotys. The difference between buying 40 and 30. It serves the same functions, and now by renting out a 40 square meter apartment, we'll rent it for 200 zlotys more than the 30 square meter one. Because here in my market, we'll get 2,200, and for the 30 square meter one, we'll get 2,000. We'll get 200 zlotys more per month by overpaying 80,000 at the start. We need over 30 years to make up that amount. That defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
All right, but people don't really look for, let's say, 40 square meters in the listings because they can imagine, okay, is that as much as we need? For example, don't you write in the listings whether it's 30 or 20 square meters?
But really, when you walked in, you also had the impression that the area was different, bigger, and when people come in, they don't see that it's 30 square meters. No one has ever asked how many square meters you have here.
Okay, like when someone rents, right?
Yes, like when someone rents and wants 2 rooms, a separate bedroom, one with a door, and a living room with a kitchenette. Is this considered a living room, even if it's a meter bigger or smaller? Of course, there are differences, but it's 200. I've been through this. It's not just what I think. I'm a practitioner. I'm not theorizing, so that's how it is. 80,000 zlotys difference, and the functions in this small apartment are fulfilled just as they should be.
And you probably make up for it with the quality of living, right?
It's good that you mentioned that. We have to compensate for the small size with a higher standard. So, solutions that aren't usually used in long-term rental apartments. In my city, they're not used, but I do it. Vinyl panels with integrated underlay, as you can see, some wooden built-ins, LED lights, and so on. Everything is supposed to be like that so that you actually want to live here.
Then you can pay the 2,000 zlotys for the 30 square meters without searching for the extra 10 meters.
Exactly, because it's really unnoticeable. If someone sees investing as wanting a bigger room, another room, a second basement, and so on, you could keep going like that endlessly. I'm saying that it doesn't really add up if we're thinking about investing and making money and looking at it in terms of return on investment.
Another definitely bigger apartment here, but I noticed many small stickers. What do they mean?
You know, that picky guy has to come at the end and mark where there are any flaws or things that might need to be fixed. I don't want to remember all of this, so when they're almost done, the crew is finishing, the furniture guys are finishing, I walk around with these stickers and show where things still need to be touched up, you know? The final result needs to ensure there are no mistakes like that.
You have your own permanent crews you hire, right? Yes.
Yes. It's a good setup too, because I talk to one person who supervises all of them. There are about 10 people there and I only hold him accountable.
And do I hire him? No.
That's actually another advantage, that I don't hire anyone. Ah, okay. They just send me an invoice and I don't have to worry about anything else and I get along well with them. I think they also appreciate that I'm on the other side.
And now here's another tip for the viewers, because maybe someone would like to do what you do. Hopefully as many creative people as possible who want to earn good money and save for retirement. But how do you start? You say you started with one apartment, but I'd like to see the jump between that one and now having several, even a dozen or so apartments in your portfolio. So where did the money come from?
Everyone, Wojtek, has a different situation, so I can't give you a recipe for success here because I don't know what stage of life someone is at, right? I didn't just show up with a suitcase of money and start, right? How long has it been now? I don't know, 7. And also, I had to take a lot of risks. I was afraid of certain moves, right? It's easy to judge later and say, oh, this guy is doing well, or that guy made it, right? But it's just that someone took that risk and I tried. That's how I measured it. Since for 2 years I wasn't sure if a project would succeed, as handling a dozen apartments is already a big expense. If something didn't work out, things could have ended very differently.
But we just walk between one investment and another, between buildings, between apartments. You have some, I don't know, so-called arrangements with the developer. When buying, let's say, you could already call it bulk apartments because you probably buy several at once. So you definitely get much better prices than an average person would if they wanted to buy such an apartment.
No, Wojtek, that's not how it works. It often happens that you negotiate with the developer for 4 apartments and it all happens on the spot, in a rush. The contract is signed and you don't get a better price at all because, for example, 5 other people are already waiting. That's how it was. Times are changing, you know, when it's a good time and everything is selling. Well, it's like this. In recent years, developers have basically stopped having any sales power at all. They were simply just registering people for apartments. There was no need to use any techniques there to sell a given product because it sold itself.
So they didn't want to negotiate either because they knew that someone else wanted to buy your spot and would take it.
5 more will come in. No, there was no negotiation at all. Now it's different. Also, over time, I built relationships with developers.
But that's exactly what I'm looking for here, you know? I'm looking for profit in all of this. Because yeah, you can't buy cheaper because as you say, you buy it at about the same price as others can. You put in a lot of money when it comes to finishing because you can still see that these apartments are nicely finished to a good standard. Do you sell them then with a big markup and people buy them? Or is that where you make your money? Are you competitive? I don't know, compared with the competition?
I don't know what a big markup means for whom. Well, I'm not doing this for charity, I make money from it. I mean, I'm saying from...
A big markup compared to other, let's say, similar apartments.
Maybe not in that way. But exactly, Wojtek doesn't have similar apartments because the standard way of thinking is just to buy, do it as cheaply as possible, and sell. And sell, okay. But here, there's quality behind it. It's not just about selling it. I also give a guarantee, and it's not like if I sell it to you today, tomorrow we don't know each other anymore, that I disappear. I'll be here for a few more years, though that's not my plan. You can make good money at this if you know what you're doing, since you can profit from anything. If someone only sees the end result and the amount I would mention, let's say 100,000 or 50,000, and someone sees it and goes, wow, great, okay, let's say 100, wow, amazing, he made a lot of money, right? So now put in 450,000, that's why I keep saying...
We have intelligent viewers who will see 100,000 as adequate for your work, not excessive, that's my view.
They might even say it's too little, that it's not enough, yeah.
Yeah, that could be the case.
She worked hard, waited long, and had her money frozen for so long.
When you're handling 7 apartments at once and renting them out, it's great they're paying off immediately.
Everyone has to find their own path. This is what suits me, I like it, and it gives me pleasure. And I know that you can make this money somewhere else faster, easier. You can buy Bitcoin and sell it as soon as it goes up, but that's not an option.
Well, you can do it with cars too. You can do it in any industry. That's why today we're showing the real estate industry. Stay until the end of this video. Leave a thumbs up right now and let's move on. This is an apartment in developer condition. We're picking up the keys, but what do you consider when buying such an apartment months in advance? Choosing it when there's still just a hole in the ground, for example, when the building doesn't even exist yet.
Wojtek, when making a purchase decision, I make sure that every apartment that goes into my portfolio has some unique feature. It either has to be a favorable room layout, a really good view out the window, or a large balcony. This apartment has to have something extra compared to the standard.
All right, but you go to the developer, he gives you a list of apartments because let's say you're often an early buyer, and from experience you know, this one yes, this one no, this one yes, this one no.
Yes, I do this often. For instance, I've already worked on a similar apartment before. I already know exactly where everything will go and how to make it great, so I don't question if it will be good, I know it will.
Okay, so when you come in here, the process from getting the keys to this kind of apartment, through finishing it, up to renting it out or selling it for further rental, how long does that take?
Since I already have this project from before, because like I said, I've already done them, we're talking about this specific one. Well, probably about 3 months. If nothing gets delayed, if the crew doesn't get delayed, which usually doesn't happen, if the furniture guys don't get delayed, which does happen, but that's normal and already factored in.
And do you put such an apartment up for sale at this point, or only after you've finished it?
Sometimes I put it up as early as the visualization stage, so the client sees the visualization, but for me the rendering matches the finished result, and very often I've had situations where the client comes in and says, I thought it would look completely different. And I ask, you mean worse, right? Yeah, like they say, some graphic designer made it, right? And I say, no, with me, when there's a rendering, the finished result is exactly the same. And often the photos look just like the visualizations. I had a situation at the bank when the apartment was sold. The appraiser called asking for real photos, not catalog ones, saying those wouldn't be accepted. I told them these were actual photos of the apartment, not from a catalog. Okay. So the photos were too nice and the apartment was too nice for the bank, for the appraiser.
Sometimes that's how it is.
You know, Wojtek, growing up, I always heard, study, study, education is the key to power, so I almost became a key keeper, right? Yeah.
Exactly, but those are a bit more expensive keys because they're for good investments.
No, otherwise I wouldn't be able to handle it, right? There has to be a box.
This investment is impressive. Is it always the case that you and your team choose the colors, match them, and design the whole interior architecture, or does the client you're working for also have a say?
Not always, because we also do things where we finish for the client based on what they want, what they expect, and we're able to do that too. and that's how it was here.
As you mentioned, you have clients here, and if they rent such apartments from you, for example, for a year, do you see that after a year you have to renovate the apartment again before renting it out once more? Wouldn't renting it out for 5 years be better? Actually, no.
Because like here, for example, we're standing by the countertop now. It's an HPL countertop, which is very durable, used in premium investments, and in my rental apartments, it's the same countertop. It has to last 10 years.
Okay, so this is...
It costs more at the start, but I've already learned that I just can't afford cheap things. Replacing that countertop 4 times later is a bigger hassle than just doing it once, paying more, and having peace of mind.
But you still haven't answered the question. After a year, do you still have to put in another 5,000, 7,000, or 10,000 to refresh the apartment, or after just one rental, can you? It depends.
Wojtek, it all depends on what kind of tenant you get. The key to this whole business, this rental game, isn't about what size you choose, which building, what layout or view you have. It's about what kind of tenant you choose.
So, do you screen tenants before renting?
Well, not a recruitment process, I wouldn't want to call it that. Recruitment, casting, it's just intuition. There are ways to verify and check who the person is. I never have a guarantee, but if I have any doubts, I'd rather not rent.
So usually it's what, one person, maybe a couple for smaller apartments. Here we have a much bigger apartment. How many square meters is it? 60?
63, 3 rooms.
Okay, so this is already more for a family, right? Yes, a family, exactly. There's a shower.
We have here. But this is not an apartment prepared for rent.
Ah, so this is only for a client who will live here.
Yes, he will live here, so that's it.
He chose these materials himself.
Which are some wallpapers, another product.
Another product, but most often it's like this. Let's say someone buys it to rent it out further and to save up for their retirement or to earn retirement income from it. You are there to give him a ready-made product. What we said from the very beginning, we debunked that first impression you might have had at the start, the conclusion that this is a flipper. Well, I wouldn't call you that. More like an investor, more like a creative person. Someone who enters an apartment like the one you saw earlier and leaves it as a ready-to-move-in product.
Well, if that's the conclusion you've drawn, then that's probably how it is.
Comment, dear viewers.
I'm definitely not the one responsible for all the rising real estate prices in this country or in this city.
Okay, that's a good summary too. And you guys be sure to write in the comments what you think about this whole business. For me, it's cool. Let's say we have a unit in shell condition. We don't want to bother with it as clients. Marcin does it all for us. We buy it. Of course, we add the money that Marcin has to earn. And it's great. Everyone benefits here. I don't worry. I just step in, rent it out, and it's great. So be sure to write in the comments what you think about this. Leave a thumbs up if you liked this episode. I sincerely thank you. Thank you for inviting me to these, oh Jesus, X apartments. I don't know, I can't count how many you showed, because we showed them.
The time you save by buying it at this stage is also money, right? So in a way, you're giving up some of your profit and passing it on to me. However, keep in mind you wouldn't have worked or earned money in your profession during that time. As in any business, time is the most valuable thing.
Like in every business, so... Wojtek Kaczmarczyk here. I'm very glad you made it to the very end. Thank you for watching this video, and I encourage you to check out more videos on the Do Roboty channel. Click on the next video and see what interesting things I've recorded there.